Hello, everybody. Hi, can you hear me? If you could hear me, could you please write a plus in your comments in the chat? Okay, fantastic. Fantastic, great, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, is there anybody who can't hear me? Then please write a question mark or something. Okay, everybody can hear me? Nice. Well, good. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. We'll just be waiting for some people who are running late perhaps, or who are having trouble connecting to our webinar. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Olga Connolli, and I work for the BKC-IH Moscow. It's a language school, it's a teacher training center, an exam center, and I'm very happy to welcome you to my webinar, okay, that is going to be devoted to professional development for teachers, and in particular to the courses that Cambridge CELTA offers to teachers to improve their qualification, CELTA and Delta. My colleague the other day was talking about some other courses, and I hope some of you were present at that webinar. I don't know, did anybody attend Anna Kasheva's webinar last week? Yes or no? You can write yes or no. No? Okay. All right. Maybe some other people did. Anyway, she was talking about TKT. Okay, Oksana attended the webinar. Fantastic, Oksana, and Ekaterina as well. Thank you. So she was talking, my colleague Anna Kasheva, she was talking about TKT courses and exams. And today I'm going to talk about CELTA and Delta. Again, while we are waiting for another 1 or 2 minutes before we kick off, does anybody have any experience with CELTA or Delta? Are you CELTA qualified or Delta qualified? Again, you can write it down in your comments. CELTA, somebody's done CELTA? Natalia, thank you. Another Natalia, Evgeny, right. Planning to take it this year, fantastic. Somebody can't hear me. Hello, Arsene. Okay. Well, does anybody have any experience with Delta? Or are you planning to do Delta? Somebody is planning to do CELTA maybe, and Delta as well. Good, good. Planning, nice. All right. So then, planning Delta. Oh, you can hear me now. I think somebody said that they can't hear me now. They can. Well, from our short poll, I figured out that we have a very mixed audience. We have somebody who haven't done any of these courses, neither of them, and we have somebody who has some experience with CELTA or planning to do CELTA or Delta, which is great. I hope the information that I'm going to give you today is going to be relevant to you, not probably the whole seminar if you've already done CELTA, for example, and you know all about it, but maybe the second part of the webinar about Delta. Well, before we talk about these courses, I just want you to read the statements about professional training and development. Statement number 1, who dares to teach must never cease to learn. And statement number 2, training is what other people do to you. Development is what you do to yourself. Do you agree with statement number 1? If so, please write yes. Okay, sure. Yeah, we are teachers, but we are learners. We are constant learners. My personal belief is when you stop learning as a teacher, you should leave the job. Because if you're not interested in finding out something new or developing yourself, then it's probably time to change. There is a difference in literature between training, professional training, and professional development, and this is what the second quote deals with. Training is what other people do to you. Development is what you do to yourself. What do you think when you do teacher training courses? Is it about training or development, or maybe both? Again, write training, development, or both in the chat. Both, I can see. So many of you believe that it's both. Okay, well, that's true. I think I share your opinion because I think training provided by the trainers, provided by more experienced teachers is very important and they guide you. But if you don't get involved, obviously nothing will happen. The trainers won't do anything. Development happens inside. And then we'll see today how the courses that I'm going to talk about both train and develop. Well, this is where I work. It's our teacher training center, BKC Education Without Limits it's called, it's BKC International House. And our center is very well established. We started running CELTA programs and Delta programs in the last century. So apart from CELTA and Delta, we run lots of other courses, and you can have a list of these. I want you to spot where CELTA is on this list. I give you half a minute. Can you find CELTA and Delta on the list? Okay. So the difference between CELTA and Delta and other programs that we run is that CELTA and Delta are Cambridge qualifications, as well as TKT, by the way. The other trainings that you can see, especially the last line, the bottom line, are all IH, International House courses. At the end of the webinar, I'll get back to this slide, and if you have any questions about other courses or programs, and if you have time, hopefully we have time for questions, I will be very happy to answer them. But at the moment, we are moving on to the main part. As I said, our center runs CELTA courses, and we've been running them since 1997. Altogether, we run 12 courses a year. Sometimes we run parallel courses, and there is more than 12. So if you think about a year as 12 months, so every month there is a course. And annually, we are happy to release about 150 graduates on the CELTA course. So it is quite a big number. So 150 CELTA qualified teachers leave our center every year. What is CELTA? What does it stand for? And the second question, do you have to do a CELTA course, or can you get this certificate on your own? Okay, let's start with what CELTA stands for. Does anybody know? I'm waiting for your replies. CELTA is... Okay, I'll give you the first word. It's certificate. Certificate, okay, of English language teaching. Okay. I understand why you made a pause, because at at the beginning, CELTA was an abbreviation. Yes, and now it is called slightly differently. It's not like every letter stands for one word. It's a little bit different. And you're absolutely right, many of you, certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages. Previously, it was teaching English to adults. But now they removed the word adults from the description, okay? Do you have to do the course, or can you get this certificate on your own? What do you think? Course or not necessarily? Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. You need to do the course. You can't, it's not an exam. You can't just prepare for the exam, sit the exam, and get your certificate. It doesn't depend on your qualification. If you want to do, if you want to get the CELTA qualification, you have to follow the course. You have to take the course. It's a course, course-based qualification, not exam-based qualification. And somebody wrote here, 4 weeks full-time. Yes, you're right. There are variations in different centers, but this is a very standard program, a very standard length, 4 weeks full-time. You're right. Okay, who is CELTA for? I have 3 bullet points here. I want you to look at them and tell me whether they are true or false. I think that CELTA is an initial teaching qualification. Is it true or false? CELTA is for professional development for experienced teachers. True or false? And it gives you international recognition. True or false? So basically, you can say F or T, depending on what you think. I've got the first answer already. So different answers. All 3 are true. I can see false, true, true. False, true, true. False, true, true. Okay, that's the most common one. Interesting. Any more? Okay. Well, now the truth. In fact, all of them are true. All of them are true. It's suitable as an initial teaching qualification, and many applicants for the CELTA course are not teachers, not yet. They might have come from a different environment, a different field, and they might have never taught before. Okay? So it's possible, if you're not a teacher yet, but you want to pursue this career, you can take the CELTA. It's also true that the CELTA course can be done by experienced teachers, and many teachers and more teachers every year do the CELTA in our center and in other centers just because they want to develop professionally, and the CELTA gives a lot to experienced teachers. Also, it is an internationally recognized certification, which means if you have the CELTA certificate, it is recognized and it is valued regardless of where you took the course. So it is it means absolutely the same in London or Shanghai or Toronto or Moscow. Okay? So it is internationally recognized Cambridge certificate. Well, you might be asking, how come? How is it possible that the same course can be suitable for both newly qualified teachers or new teachers and professional experienced teachers? In fact, the program is very flexible, and because it contains a practical element, it allows to cater for the needs of all teachers, all sorts of teachers, with no experience, with little experience, with a lot of experience, or with experience in different spheres, in different contexts, university or state school or language school or private sector. I will tell you a little bit more about the program and what it involves. Now, let's look at the international recognition, like why take CELTA? Who recognizes CELTA? First, organizations which employ English language teachers throughout the world, usually language schools, usually. However, CELTA is sometimes recognized by non-governmental organizations, the voluntary sector. Publishers look at your qualification and you might get granted, maybe. If you have a CELTA, like it shows your credentials. And other educational institutions. I put it very carefully. Don't get me wrong, I can't lie to you saying that in Russia state institutions recognize CELTA or Delta. No, that's not true. Unfortunately, the state sector do not consider CELTA as a valid qualification. I mean, I say unfortunately, but maybe I shouldn't be saying that. It's just a different system. However, I know that some state organizations, state schools and universities often send their teachers to do the CELTA as part of their professional development. So many managers in educational organizations, state schools and state universities recognize CELTA as a valid course to do. Okay? Right. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot. If you have any questions during my presentation, you can write them in the questions section. You can see a little question mark on the top panel, or you can write it in the chat, and I will answer them either while I'm going or at the end of the presentation, okay? So, do you have any questions about CELTA recognition at the moment? No questions? Okay. Okay. So if you have any questions, as I said, please feel free to type it up. There are certain requirements for the CELTA course. As I said, it is suitable for experienced teachers or novice teachers, but does it mean that anybody can step in and say, I want to do CELTA and they will be accepted? No, that's not true. The language level should be very high. If you're familiar with the European framework of reference, you will recognize these letters and numbers, C2 or high C1. In Cambridge exams, what is the exam that proves that you are C2 or C1? Does anybody know? CAE, CPE, proficiency? Yeah. So, in fact, if we use the Cambridge scale, it will be CPE or CAE A and B, because CAE C is a little bit lower than high C1, okay? So yes, proficiency is a good answer, or maybe CAE, but higher bands. It doesn't mean that you will have to show us the certificate if you want to apply for the course. If you have one, yeah, fantastic. If you have another one, for example, IELTS, that's also counted, or TOEFL. But if you don't have any certificates, but you think your level of English is high enough, you can still apply. We'll give you a test, a language test, to check it. We will give you a language test because it's a Cambridge requirement. We can't accept people whose level of English is lower. Another requirement is appropriate level of language awareness. Remember, I told you that CELTA can be taken by people who have never taught before, by native speakers who have never explicitly learned their language. However, we still expect people to have some basic level of language awareness in these cases. It's never a problem with Russian teachers, to be honest. In fact, Russian teachers have always been strong, have been performing strong in this area. So well done. Okay, the CELTA syllabus. There are 5 main topics, and you can see them on the screen. Okay, I'll give you a minute to read through, and then I'll ask you some questions. Okay, I hope you had enough time to read through. Now, do you think that these 5 topics are studied one by one? For example, we first only talk about learners and teachers and the teaching and learning contexts. Then later on the course, we are dealing with language analysis and language awareness and so on. Do they go in a chronological order? Probably not. Good guess. No. You're right. Okay, you're right. They are all interrelated. They happen almost simultaneously because on the CELTA course, from the very first day, you start planning lessons. Okay? That means you are thinking about planning and resources. You also start analyzing language for your lessons. That means you need to revise your grammar or vocabulary knowledge or phonology and complete language analysis for your lesson. You will include some skills, like maybe it's a reading text, maybe it's a speaking activity or whatever. That means the knowledge of language skills is involved, and so on and so forth. And you are obviously teaching students. That means you need to be aware of the context. Throughout, you're developing your teaching skills and professionalism. So all these main topics are interrelated in one program. There is a question here, is it possible to apply for CELTA if I have the diploma of teacher linguist? You can apply for CELTA. It doesn't matter whether you have a diploma or not. Yes, of course you can. As I said, you can apply for CELTA even if you don't have any diploma. Okay. Right. So let's move on. These are the topics, but now about practicalities. What exactly the course involves? According to the Cambridge requirements, there should be 120 contact hours. What does it mean, contact hours? The contact hours is when the tutor and the trainees are all together doing something. This is what contact hours mean. They include input sessions. On average, there are 20 input sessions. Input session is a seminar, a workshop, okay? There is also individual lesson planning. When I was telling you about the availability of the CELTA course for different types of teachers, this is where differentiation happens. Lesson planning and feedback, as well as one-to-one tutorials, are very individualized. So it is really like an activity where the tutor is talking to you about your areas, about your lessons, about your performance. And everybody has their starting point. Everybody has their weaknesses and strengths. And that is why this individual approach helps to benefit everyone. So this is why this course is basically for anyone. You will have to teach real classes with real students, not dummy students, not your peers, but real students, and you have to teach 6 assessed hours. We divide the 6 hours into 8 45-minute lessons. So altogether, you teach 8 45-minute lessons on the course. You also have an opportunity to observe experienced teachers teach, which is always fun and interesting. When you're not teaching, you're observing your peers and you learn from each other. And finally, you need to submit 4 written assignments. 3 of them should be a pass in order to pass the course. Okay? My question to those who have done CELTA or who have read about CELTA, did I miss anything? What else did your course include? Feedback, yes, I think it was there, feedback. Peer observation, yes, I think it was on the list, one-to-one tutorials and feedback. Self-evaluation, yes, you're right, Natalia. Self-evaluation is something that you complete after you've taught your lesson. Because we ask the teacher to reflect on their practice first before they get feedback. Yes, it's a very important part of the course. Thank you very much. There was a question in the question box. I just opened it quickly. And you were asking how is language awareness checked during the application procedure. It's a very good question. I said language proficiency is tested through a test, and language awareness is tested through the tasks that you need to complete when you apply for the CELTA. There are some language awareness tasks there. During the interview, we also ask some language awareness questions just to check whether you're able to analyze language at a very I wouldn't say basic level, but sufficient level. You are not expected to be experts at grammar. On the contrary, we encourage you to be researchers. We encourage you to research grammar points, language points when you're preparing for the lesson. And we give you literature and reference resources to do that. So yeah, you don't have to be a grammarian. Okay. This is a typical CELTA day. Of course, the day can differ from center to center, from course to course. Sometimes you might start earlier and finish earlier. In our center, we finish late in the evening. Have a look. Which part of the CELTA course is the most enjoyable for you, or would be the most enjoyable for you? 1 minute and write it down. Lunch. I knew it, you know, it was quite predictable. Are you hungry, Olga? Teaching practice. I hope so, yes. Yes, teaching practice, of course. I wonder why you say teaching practice. 3 people agree. Why teaching practice? What is so enjoyable about it? Okay, somebody likes observations of experienced teachers. Yes, very useful. I knew it, Olga, don't worry. Yes, Helena, that's the point to get CELTA, to gain this teaching experience. At this level, it's the only qualification that really gives you an opportunity to teach real students and get immediate feedback on teaching. You can see the result of the progress, of course, yeah, of the process, absolutely. It brings results because at the end of the day, we can read 500 different clever books and we can write 500 very good lesson plans, but then we stand in front of the students and this is the moment when you need to show everything. Okay, as I said, this is a typical CELTA day. And if you decide to do the CELTA, it's very likely that you have this schedule. Quite intensive, to be honest, quite intensive. Okay, right. If you decide to apply for the CELTA, what do you need to do before really making this decision, or before the course, after you've been accepted? There are a few things that might help you to prepare for the CELTA. Some things are absolutely essential because they interfere with the requirements. Some things are optional but desirable. And here is the list. Essential things is to improve your level of English if it is lower than the required standard. We normally suggest that people do Cambridge exam preparation course or some other exam preparation course, CAE or CPE, for example. Why? I'll explain. Of course, you can improve your English in many, many different ways. Somebody says, okay, I'll be watching English films. Great. Somebody says, oh, I'll be talking to people around the world in English, to native speakers, non-native speakers, and I'll be improving my English. Fantastic. Yes, I agree. It really helps. But unless you start a systematic revision and systematic, unless you adopt a systematic approach to learning a language, it will be a little bit sporadic. So I believe that people need to have guidance and need to have a system. That's why an exam preparation course, which is goal-oriented, will give you these goals, will give you the system. You will be improving all areas of English, not only speaking, not only writing, not only listening, but all areas of English. And eventually it will lead you to a good result. Irina is asking, will it be possible to watch it recorded? Yes, all the materials will be available. Thank you very much, Irina. So, your level of English is essential. It's an essential requirement. If everything is fine with your level of English, or you're working on it, then you might be thinking of what else you can do. And there are some optional things. For example, you might want to do a TKT preparation course. It's a very good preparation for CELTA. And many people do it this way. They have a study plan. They first take the TKT and then they apply for CELTA. Very wise of them, to be honest, because the TKT gives you the basis. The TKT gives you the platform. Okay? You will learn terminology. You will learn some concepts. There is no practice component in the TKT, but there is some theory and there is some awareness that you gain through doing the TKT course. It's very useful. Sometimes people even refer to their TKT notes on CELTA. CELTA is a very intensive course, especially if you do it full time. You won't have much time to read. That is why reading before the course is also advisable. Not required, but advisable. When you apply for the course, we give you a list of books that we recommend you start reading before the course. The better you are prepared, the more enjoyable and easier the course is going to be, and the more attention you will pay to practice. Okay? Another optional thing, gaining teaching experience. It helps. Because if you are not a teacher or you don't teach groups, only teach one-to-ones or only teach Skype lessons, it's a different dynamic. It's very good, it's wonderful, but it's a different dynamic. On the CELTA course, you're going to teach a group of students, a group of adult students. Again, if you want to do a CELTA, but you only have experience with young learners, why not take a group or two of adults and see how teaching adults is slightly different. It might give you confidence on the course. Okay? Right. This is something that you can do to prepare for the CELTA. Now I make a pause and I'm waiting for your questions. Something about preparation for the CELTA or about the CELTA itself, because the next part of the webinar is going to be devoted to Delta. Okay? So I can see there is a question. If I have TKT all modules, but 6 years ago, is it crucial to repeat teaching material? I think it's useful. I think it's useful to revise what you learned 6 years ago. Why not? You don't need to probably retake the exam. Of course, it's an option, but why? I think if you dig out your notes and course books that you used, materials that you used, when you're preparing for TKT, and start revising it. It's very useful, Alona. Yes. I can see there is a question. What CPE and CAE books do you recommend? As I understand, you're talking about self-preparation, right? Yeah. For self-preparation, I mean, there are plenty of CAE and CPE books. Complete, for example, CAE Complete and CPE Complete, Objective, CPE, CAE, Compact. Yeah, these books. Yeah, they're good. CAE Gold, for example, it's a bit older than the others, but still very, very useful. Yeah. Straight to advanced is great. Okay, somebody is recommending. Thank you very much, Natalia. Yeah, maybe somebody else has recommendations for CPE and CAE books that helped you to improve your level of English. Expert, yes, yes. Nice. Complete advanced, yeah. Okay, thank you for your suggestions. Thank you very much. Do you have any more questions about preparation for the CELTA course before we recap? Okay. All right. There was a question in the objective, yes, objective CE. There was a question in the box, what is ICELT? I will type it up so that you understand what we're talking about. ICELT. Okay, this is ICELT. ICELT is a Cambridge qualification. It's been on the market for quite a few years. Unfortunately, Cambridge have decided to terminate this qualification this year. So this year is the last year that the ICELT course or ICELT courses are going to be run in the world. ICELT is a course that is designed as a something in between CELTA and Delta. It is not the Delta level yet, but it is designed for more experienced teachers who work usually in one particular institution because it's very context based. There are slightly different requirements for the ICELT, as I know. For example, your level of English doesn't have to be proficiency, so the level of English could be lower. As I said, it's a very good qualification, and I know that many teachers hold it proudly, fantastic, but unfortunately, Cambridge have decided to stop it. Okay. How about CELT P and CELT S? These are qualifications, Cambridge qualifications for younger learners. CELT P stands for primary, CELT S stands for secondary. We're not going to discuss it here at this webinar, but you can find information on Cambridge sites. Is it enough B2 level for TKT CELTA Delta? No. For TKT, yes, absolutely enough. For CELTA and Delta, no way. Sorry. Where can I take ICELT? In BKC you can't take it, so I don't know where else, to be honest. I wish I could help, Olga, but I don't know. Okay. More questions? Okay, right, we're moving on, and the next monster that we are going to deal with today is Delta, Cambridge Delta. There are 3 questions for you to answer. How many Delta modules are there? In what order should you do them? Does it matter? And which modules require taking a course? Waiting for your replies. Any order? Module 2. Second requires a course. Okay. Right. I think you you're right in your answers. There are 3 Delta modules. You're absolutely right. And yes, you can take them in any order. It doesn't matter for Cambridge. It might matter for you. Okay, so Cambridge doesn't mind in which order you take the Delta, but you might have your preferences, and I will tell you a little bit about it. Which modules require taking a course? Yes, it's only one module that is an absolute must that you take as a course, module 2. It's the meat, the core of Delta. Let's get back to the order. Right. What's the difference between CELTA and Delta? Good question. I should have started with that. Delta is a diploma. Okay. D stands for diploma. CELTA, C, stands for as a certificate. Yes, somebody answered already. Certificate and a diploma, they are different levels of proficiency, teaching proficiency. Delta is much higher. Delta is at the level of master's programs in UK, for example. Okay, so it's a more academic qualification. However, it's still practical. CELTA is an initial qualification, or just, you know, the step forward. Let's get back to the order. There are 3 modules, and they are module 1, module 2, and module 3 for a reason, perhaps. Most people who I know, and I would do the same if I were to take Delta, they do it in the order as suggested. Module 1 doing first, module 2, and then module 3. However, some people prefer to do module 1, module 3, and then do module 2. Module 2 is the hardest, the most time-consuming, and the most demanding. Maybe that's the reason. So, but it's your choice. Okay. What are they? What are these modules? Module 1 is a written examination. And I'll tell you more. It's not just a written examination, it's a handwritten examination. Can you imagine that? You don't type, you handwrite. Okay, I'll tell you about the areas that it tests, but okay, so far so good. Module 2 is a course-based qualification which has both the practical component, you teach real lessons, real students, and it has the theoretical component and academic component, you write assignments. And module 3 is a written assignment, not handwritten assignment, it's a normal typed up assignment. You design a course on the chosen specialism. So you choose a specialism and design a course for your group. Always asking what order would you recommend? As I understand it was about in what order to take the Delta modules. I would recommend first doing module 1, second doing module 2, and third doing module 3. That's my personal recommendation. I'll answer the question about the length a little bit later. Okay, let's start with the beginning. Module 1. It's a written examination, as I said, and there are 2 90-minute papers. By papers, we mean exams, okay, tasks. In paper 1, you will be dealing with terminology, so you need to demonstrate your knowledge of terminology. You will need to analyze a task. It will be a task from a resource pack or from a course book, and you need to analyze what kind of language or strategies or skills students need in order to be successful doing the task. Evaluation of student outcome. What do we understand by student outcome? What do you think? Type it up very quickly. What do we mean by student outcome? Results? Not yet. Written, spoken output, yes. Not progress, not results. Yeah, I agree, you're right. Written and spoken output, performance, yes, to a certain extent. So basically what they perform productively. If we evaluate the student outcome, that means we evaluate either a piece of writing or a piece of speaking, if I can say that. There is a script, tape script, and you evaluate this. You evaluate it in a similar manner as you evaluate your student's piece of writing or your student's speech. That means you look at the strengths, at the areas to work on, and this is what the task is all about. According to the level, of course, of the students, you will find certain strengths at the B2 level, for example, with the student's outcome, and other strengths if the person is C2, for example. And also there's a big task in paper 1, genre and language analysis. It's a big task. It's basically half of paper 1. This is where your language awareness is key. Paper 2, it also has tasks. You evaluate a test. You give tests to your students, right? But what do you normally do? You normally take it from the shelf or from a course book, print out or send it electronically, and the students complete the test. The Delta exam suggests that you look at the test critically. So you evaluate the benefits, strengths of the test, and the test reliability and validity and all the rest. So whether this test is appropriate for this particular, not your, but this particular given context. You're given a test and you're given a context. Also, you have to evaluate a course book material. Also a big task. You will see an example, a sample of a printed material from a course book, usually, and you need to look at it critically again and think about what kind of assumptions the author had when they were putting the exercises here on this page. What kind of beliefs about second language acquisition the author was holding. Okay, what does this activity do? How does it help the students? And so on and so forth. So you evaluate course book material. Again, of course we do it in real life. Of course we plan the lesson, we open the course book and then decide, this exercise is very good and I'm going to use it. This exercise is not good enough, I'm going to adapt it. Why? Because blah, blah, blah. And this is the process that happens in teachers' minds all the time. But in the exam, you have to make it explicit, you have to make it clearly stated and organized. And finally, teacher material evaluation. Some material is written for students. A lot of materials are written for students. Course books, resource packs, everything. But some materials are written for teachers, for our professional development. It can be, for example, an article. It can be a recommendation in the teacher's book. And there will be a certain theme in this material, a certain view on different areas of teaching. For example, on error correction, or on pronunciation drilling, or on task repetition, whatever. And you need to put forward your views about this area of teaching. It sounds tough. Oh yes, yes. It does sound tough, and that is why people need to think twice before they decide that they're ready for the Delta. I will talk about the requirements, I will talk about the application procedure, and we will discuss it, like what exactly it involves. You can see the areas are so varied. You can't be an expert only in tests and take the exam and pass the exam. No, you have to be an expert in all these areas. Okay, moving on. In my question, I asked whether you need a course if you want to do Delta. And you are correctly pointing out that only Delta Module 2 requires course taking. Delta Module 1 and Delta Module 3 are, strictly speaking, not course-based. In fact, some people prepare on their own. They prepare for Delta Module 1 and Delta Module 3. Self-preparation is possible, and in this picture you can see a handbook for tutors and candidates, Cambridge handbook, where you can find quite a lot of information about the Delta. Okay, so this is your starting point, let's say. But after that, of course, you need to look much deeper into what exactly to revise for the Delta. Some people do exactly the same for Delta Module 3. They write their paper themselves. They study the requirements and they sit down and design the course. It's possible. Okay? If you decide to prepare for the Delta Module 1 on your own, the areas to revise are on the screen. Language awareness, and it is quite deep level of language awareness. It's not only grammar, no. Language awareness includes grammar, vocabulary, discourse, pronunciation. Material evaluation. Yeah, look at different materials and see what's behind them. Because materials are written by authors who have their beliefs and assumptions, and they put the activities and the materials into their course books for a reason. Assessing students' work, it helps a lot, and the more experience you have with this, the more exposure to assessment you have, the better. Look at tests and test evaluation, take it critically. General contemporary methodology, so anything written for the teachers, of course, this is an area, and revised terminology. If you use Quizlet, there are sections for Delta terminology. People compiled all these terms in the Quizlet. You can actually access it easily and start revising terminology for Delta. There are quite a few terms, and people sometimes get obsessed with the terms. To be honest, terminology is not such a big part of Delta. It helps to understand what you're reading and what you're studying, but well, it's language awareness is more important, for example. There are a few questions from Elvira. We should have C level to pass CELTA, shouldn't we? I didn't quite understand what you mean by C level. I'm not sure if you could clarify. What level should we have for Delta? Level of English, if you mean level of English, it's exactly the same as for CELTA, proficiency. You should have C1 high. C1 high. That means if it is a CAE level, it is CAE A or B, let's say, not CAE C. Okay? Did I answer the question? Right. Okay. Oh, sorry. We have Delta Module 1 and Delta Module, Delta Module 1 only. Do you have any questions about preparation for Delta Module 1? I'm waiting for your questions. No questions. Okay, right. How to prepare for task 5? Task 5, do you mean it's language awareness task? Genre? Paper 1, yeah. How to prepare? Well, there are two components in task 5, sorry. It's the genre analysis. It doesn't give you many points, but 5 points altogether. It's familiarization with different genre conventions, like how a letter is different from an essay, how a leaflet is different from a proposal, that sort of thing. So you might want to read on genres. And but the biggest part of task 5 is language awareness, and I would suggest you read or consult books. For example, Martin Parrott has a wonderful book about English language, and Michael Swan, Practical English Usage. Also books on pronunciation, like Roach, for example, Peter Roach, a book on phonetics and phonology. It will give you more confidence when you deal with pronunciation, and discourse analysis, something that you probably studied at university, different like cataphoric, anaphoric reference, exaphoric reference, lexical, cohesion, coherence, that sort of thing. So these are the areas that you need to be aware of. And practice, of course, analyze language, look at authentic materials and analyze bits and pieces from there. Module 1 is a separate exam, right? Yes, Module 1 is a separate exam. You're right, absolutely. You take it in one day. You have paper 1 done, an hour and a half. Then you have half an hour break, and then paper 2. Another hour and a half. Okay, we're moving on to Delta 2. Oh, by the way, for Delta 1, you can, of course, prepare yourself, but there is also a chance to prepare on the course, and many people prefer to do it. Our school runs Delta preparation courses twice a year. They're very, very popular. It's an intensive course, only 10 weeks, once a week, with some homework. But it's really like it familiarizes you with the strategies and the format of the exam and gives you a lot of practice. It's a great boost for those who want to take the exam. How to prepare for Delta Module 2? As I said, Delta Module 2 is a preparation course. You need to do the preparation course. Self-preparation is not possible. If you want this qualification, you must enroll on the course. Somebody asked me in the question box whether it's more expensive than CELTA. Yes, it is more expensive than CELTA. Much more expensive, I don't know what you mean by much. Not twice as expensive, but something like that, and maybe 1.5 times as expensive. If you want more information about that and more precise numbers, because unfortunately I don't deal with numbers, or fortunately I don't deal with numbers, but if you want to find out more about it, you can contact our school, our center. The contact details will be provided at the end. Okay, these are the skills and abilities that are required for Delta Module 2. You need to be a researcher. You need to be able to access your materials, resources, read them, extract the necessary information, summarize, put it into use. So lots of skills that an academic researcher possesses. This is what you need. Apart from that, you need to put it in a concise, very well organized way in academic writing, academic style. So this is also something to hone the skill of academic writing. You need to be able to plan lessons, obviously, because without planning a lesson, how can you teach a lesson? Lesson planning at a Delta level is quite a trick. Okay, so it's a very, very detailed lesson plan with possible problems and solutions, with very extensive language analysis or skills analysis, and the commentary justifying every single choice in the lesson. You need to be able to teach a lesson, and this is crucial. It's the most important part of the Delta course. It's still practical. It's highly practical, and your lessons are the core of the course. And you need to be able to reflect on your performance. I've seen some very good teachers who weren't very reflective. They kind of reached a point when they think, okay, everything is all right, and I don't need to do anything extra. And they couldn't see, they were kind of blind to their areas to develop. The tutors can help here. The tutors can have an opinion from outside, from kind of an expert's view, but without your own ability and willingness to self-reflect, this process is impossible. And do you remember what we started with? We said the teachers should be learning, yeah? So the teacher shouldn't stop learning, and this is part of it. The reflection is part of learning. Okay, these are the competences, the abilities that you need for the Delta. Right, and my next slide is Delta 3. That's why I'll stop again for a moment. If you have any questions, please ask me about Delta Module 2. How long is Delta Module 2? The length. Good question. There are different modes. There is a full-time Delta, and in many centers, the full-time Delta lasts for 6 weeks. In our center, we run the full-time Delta within 7 weeks. So we give 1 week just to breathe. Okay. However, we have a part-time format in our center, and this year we've run our first part-time Delta. Sorry, Delta, I'm talking about Delta. And you won't believe it, tomorrow is the last day of our part-time Delta. We're very happy about it, okay? The part-time Delta is run from November to April, and we have classes once a week on Fridays. And then you teach either the classes that we offer or your own classes. So you can do teaching practice with your own classes. So that's how it's organized. Where is it better to pass Module 2? In your own country or in a foreign one? Daria, I can't tell you, really. It's your choice. The qualification itself, as I said, isn't internationally recognized, so it doesn't matter. There are certain advantages and disadvantages of doing it somewhere else or in your country. Obviously, when you do it in Russia, you are mostly teaching Russian students, and you're familiar to the context. You are better adapted to it, okay? In a foreign country, you might end up teaching students who speak other languages that you don't speak, and it will be a bit more difficult, a bit more stressful living in a foreign country, maybe more expensive because you have to think about accommodation and stuff. So really there are, but it's interesting, of course, it's interesting to do something in a foreign environment or a multinational class. Delta is quite a stressful experience. I don't know whether you need an extra stress, whether it will help you or not. So it's really your choice. I can't recommend anything. Do you have summer Delta course? Not this summer, unfortunately, Olga. We've decided to focus on CELTAs this summer, but we'll definitely have a part-time Delta course, which will start in November, approximately. Yeah, just look at our announcements. Can I pass Module 2 after CPE and TKT3 modules, just missing Delta Module 1? Yes. As I said, the order doesn't matter. You can take Delta modules in any order. Okay, CPE and TKT3 modules, this is something not very relevant to Delta. Even if you have CPE, okay, fantastic, that means your level of English is high enough. TKT3 modules, probably you're thinking, I should miss CELTA. Again, your choice. If you feel that you're ready for the Delta after TKT, which I would personally be surprised about, but you might be right, Olga, then you can try, you can apply for the Delta, and then the interview procedure, the application procedure will show whether you're ready or not. To my colleagues, to teachers, to our clients, we always suggest do CELTA before Delta. Okay, so that's my suggestion from the trainer's perspective, from the experience that we've gained during many years of running CELTAs and Deltas. Do CELTA and then you can do Delta. Is it possible to study online? There are online CELTAs, I know, not in our center, but it's not online, to be honest. It's called online center, but in fact it's blended. You have teaching practice still in the premises, okay? The same about Delta, by the way. There are online Delta programs, and you can take them through different institutions, but you still need to have a Delta local tutor in your city so that they can deal with your teaching practice. So it's not completely online. Again, about online courses, the observation of lessons you teach, no, the observation is impossible online. The observations are only live observations. Okay? Right. I think we have only one part to discuss, is Delta Module 3. Delta Module 3, to remind you, is a course design. We have some specialisms, and these are just a few of them. There are more than what you can see on the screen. You choose one of the specialisms, usually the one that you have experience in and which you are interested in. Look at these specialisms. Just at first glance, what attracts you? If you were taking the exam soon, which one would you choose? You personally. YL? Business English? Teaching exams? CLIL? Okay, different choices. Business? Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, the first four are probably the most common ones. This is what people choose, and teaching one-to-one as well. Well, basically, this is what you do. You choose a specialism. You need a group of students who you would conduct the needs analysis with. That's important. So you need real students, okay, for needs analysis. After that, you can forget about the students and design the course at your computer. Right. It's quite a challenge to design a course, and some people are very good at that, and they can do it, and they can do it, they can write this paper on their own, just using their experience and using the information on the internet. Many people need guidance. Again, there are Delta 3 preparation courses. Our center runs a Delta 3 preparation course, which consists of some input sessions that deal with each part of the paper, and individual consultations and reading drafts. So this individual consultation and reading drafts is the part that we are proud of, because it provides individual approach. So it's you and me, and I'm helping you to make your paper better. So this is what we do. Okay. The candidate requirements for all Delta modules are pretty much the same. Somebody asked me about the level of English, and the level of English is the same as for CELTA. C2, high C1. What is different from CELTA is the second point, extensive and varied teaching experience. It's absolutely crucial for Delta Module 2 in particular to have this experience. Some people try to rush. They do, okay, CELTA this year, oh, I'm ready for Delta next year. Maybe, if you had some previous experience and a lot of it, but maybe not. If you ask me, when I did my CELTA 500 years ago, I did my CELTA and then I embarked on the Delta in 5 years. So I gave myself a gap, a 5-year gap, to gain experience, to try out different things, to read, to find out new things, to absorb and revise the methodology. And I never regret it. I think this is a very good idea not to do Delta straight after CELTA, even though you might feel you are so motivated and enthusiastic to do it. What does it mean extensive and 5 years? Is 5 years enough? Well, 5 years could be different 5 years. If you teach full-time, for example, you have a number of classes and there's a varied experience. This is important, variety of experience. For example, if a person only teaches one-to-ones for 5 years, I wouldn't call it varied teaching experience. If you teach different types of classes, exam preparation, business English, young learners, different ages and levels of students, a higher level, lower level, different. Possibly different contexts, like students of different nationalities or different needs, whatever, then I would call it extensive and varied. Okay, full-time in university, a little bit limited to university, so you only know one context. However, even within the university, if you teach different levels of students or different groups, different courses, because the courses are different at university, you can be teaching academic writing or you can be teaching pronunciation courses, I don't know. So it might be okay, Extensive reading goes without saying, reading and learning methodology and learning language. Very high level of language awareness, this is a must. Excellent reflective skills. Reflection is the key. Again and again, I will repeat it. Some people, again, they enter the course and they think, oh, they are Delta level, they are great, they are genius. Maybe they are, but you never stop learning. And reflection is basically the door that you open towards learning. What books do you recommend to prepare for Delta Module 1 and 3? Guys, the list of books is extensive. I can't really recommend now some, 3 or 4 books. For CELTA, yes. For Delta, it's so extensive that, to be honest, I won't be now kind of listing them. For each area that I listed earlier, you might have key books. I mentioned, for example, for phonology, Peter Roach for phonology, for example. If you want to know more about tests and test designs, then the book by Hughes is very good. It's about testing. It depends on the area. There are so many areas there. For Delta Module 3, definitely you need some books on course design. Yeah, that's Catherine Graves, for example, wrote quite a few books on course design. Olga, you mentioned lack of time while studying for CELTA. Could you recommend books, manuals that can be read before taking the course? We give a list of books when people apply for the course. We give a list of books. Just some of them are Jim Scrivener, Learning Teaching, Martin Parrott, it's about language, Scott Thornberry about language as well, by the way, and Jeremy Harmer, how to teach different aspects, like how to teach English, and then there are also, it's a series of how-to for different other aspects of English. Okay, as I promised, at the end of the webinar, I am going to show you one more time. I'm going to show you the list of courses that our center offers. We have courses and trainings. The first 2 are trainings. These are just one-day events, usually, or 2-day events. TKT preparation courses, TKT Young Learner courses, Cambridge CELTA and Delta, the ones that we were focusing on, and IH courses. These abbreviations mean a lot. IH, Certificate of Young Learner Teaching. And the course is going to start in June, so you still have time to apply for the course. IH VYL, Very Young Learners. So it's a wonderful program for those who are interested in teaching kids. IHC one-to-one, if you have lots of private students or one-to-one students, you can take the course, and it's very interesting. Again, we are finishing one next week, so this is our last input session next week. IH certificate for business English teaching. Teaching business, teaching in company, this is the course for you. And finally, one of my most favorite courses that I would recommend to anybody who is thinking, who is between CELTA and Delta, okay, who's thinking about doing Delta, but they've already done CELTA, it's IH CAM, Certificate of Advanced Methodology. This is a bridge course, a bridge between CELTA and Delta. It gives you an opportunity to revise what you already know, and also upgrades your knowledge and gives you more insight. The CAM course, if you are asking, if you're asking about the CAM course, how long does it take? It's an extensive course, and we run it throughout the year, only once a year. Once a year and once a week, from October to April. Okay, so there are altogether 20 weeks. Yes, 20 weeks with a winter break in between. So this is how long it lasts. It's quite a commitment. It's an academic year. But after the CAM, again, we've been running it for ages and ages, and we've collected so much feedback on it. After the CAM, people who take Delta, they say, oh my God, how could I do Delta without the CAM? So it's a very good one. No full-time courses. No, we don't run CAM in the full-time version. No, it's only part-time, unfortunately. IHWO, International House, IH, they run an online CAM course if you're interested. We run it face-to-face. How long can be the maximum time period? There is no maximum time period, Olga. No maximum time for all 3 modules without a break. Okay, I think it's time for the questions now, and I will see what I have in the box. I've been teaching for almost 10 years in different contexts. I got all TKT certificate and passed CELTA last summer. Is it possible to apply for Delta Module 1? Looks like it. Yes, Natalia, if you feel confident, yes, please do apply. Yeah, it's time to apply, absolutely. Could I ask you a question about certificates? As far as I know, CELTA certificates are of unlimited duration. What about IHVYL certificate? Yes, you're right, Nadezhda. All of them are unlimited, and IHVYL is unlimited as well. Any age restrictions? Any age restrictions? What do you mean? Teacher courses are for adults. That means you need to be 18 plus, no other restrictions. IHCBET stands for International House Certificate of Business English Teaching. It's business English. Business English, yeah, that's okay, Olga, that's fine. Yeah, I said it very quickly. Any more questions? When does next preparation course for Delta Module 1 start? The next Delta 1 course is going to be in September. We are running one at the moment, so you can't join in because we are in the middle of the course. But the next one is going to be the end of September. When to apply? If you can apply in August, for example, or beginning of September. It's absolutely fine to do it. We haven't opened the application procedure yet for the next Delta. Thank you for the question. Any more questions? I'm going to show you my last and favorite slide. I think the question is, what is your top professional responsibility? And I agree with Susan, who's saying that feeling good about yourself is the most important. If you feel good when developing professionally on courses, or when you're attending webinars like this, if it gives you joy and enjoyment and satisfaction, that's great. That's your professional responsibility. What courses do you recommend for the beginning teacher one-to-one? I'm not sure what you mean by beginning teacher. Does it mean that you don't have any teaching experience, or you haven't taught one-to-ones? If you could give me a little bit more context here. Natalia. Anyway, the IH course teaching one-to-one, which is IHC one-to-one, is a good one for those who have a little bit of experience in teaching. If you don't have much experience, you can try. We always suggest, if you're not sure, you can always apply. It's free. You don't need to. You need to invest a little bit of energy and time, of course, to apply for the courses. But we will definitely have an interview with you, and even if we feel that you're not ready for this course, you will get a professional development interview, a professional development conversation with an expert, and then we will recommend what to do in your individual case. So just apply for the course and we will talk about it. Thank you very much, Olga. Okay, I do not have enough level. You probably think about the level of English. You know, Elvira, I should tell you, this is the easiest thing to fix. It's all in your hands, okay? So you can, yeah, you can improve your level of English. These are our contacts, by the way. These are the contacts for teacher training, the department where I work, and my personal email address, my work email address, our telephone number and address, and the websites. Okay. If you have any questions, please contact me or teacher training. Thank you very much for your attendance. I think somebody asked me a question. It was in the box. How did Delta and CELTA helped you in your career? Alona, thank you very much for this question. Okay, if you're interested, of course it's the webinar not about me, it's about you. But if you're interested, CELTA changed my life. CELTA changed my career path. Okay, so I started teaching differently. I started teaching in a different place at BKC-IH Moscow, where I'm still working. I've built my career. Delta helped me a lot because after the CELTA, you know what and how. Delta gives you the understanding of the depth and the principles and why, rationalizing every single decision that you make. And it wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't done Delta. So Delta gave me a lot of awareness and confidence. Yes. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your questions. You've been very active today, which means there's a lot of involvement. That means you are developing teachers. You're interested in professional development. Welcome to our center. Welcome to our courses. And I think it's soon the time when we finish. Bye-bye.